Good morning, everyone. Thank you for meeting me here today. I am so excited about this week, and I've just been pressing in and asking the Lord, Lord, what do you want me to share with everyone? And I am just so excited to talk to you this week, and I want to spend this week teaching you about what the Word says regarding our thought life, and especially toxic thoughts, and how over time those uncontested toxic thoughts truly become strongholds in our lives. And many of you are familiar with Joyce Meyer's book and her extensive teaching about the battlefield of the mind. And she teaches that you cannot have a positive life and a negative mind. And if you're not familiar with the book, I think it's fair to say that most of us certainly realize that the first place the attack comes from the enemy is, and his strategy is to come against our minds. And how does he do this? He uses lies and deception. And it's very effective. And he is the father of lies. And we are going to dissect and unpack that this week. And as a nurse, I've always just been awestruck regarding our minds and the thought process and the chemical reactions that take place when we think certain thought patterns. And our minds have this amazing ability and power to retrieve a thought, a situation, a memory from our past. But our minds also have the ability to go into the future via our imagination. And it's interesting because I know I've been in many circles where people have felt and said that, Emery, I can't control my thoughts. It's just the way that I think. But this is not true. In fact, we do have the power to choose our thoughts. And as a matter of fact, the Word instructs us that we need to choose our thoughts very, very carefully. And that is going to be the focus of the devotions for this week and maybe even next, because there is so much, I don't want to say information, we have enough information, but we need to get revelation about these truths. And actually in 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 5, we are given a critical key of truth. And it says, inasmuch as we refute arguments and theories and reasonings and every proud and lofty thing that sets itself up against the true knowledge of God, and we lead every thought and purpose away captive into the obedience of Christ. We are going to look at that scripture so closely, and there's so many things that I want to teach you with regard to the application of that particular scripture, because it is critical for our lives, for a successful life filled with peace and victory. And so today I just want to build a foundation. I want you to understand first and foremost that what you and I think affects us physically, and it affects us emotionally. How many times have you replayed a conversation in your head until it has stirred you to emotional pain or brought on stress in your life? Do you realize that stress is the reaction your body has to your thoughts? And how many of you would agree with me this morning that you become most stressed when you feel that there is a situation that is out of your control, or a situation that you feel God is not taking care of, He's not taking care of that situation, or even more importantly, and for most of us, He's not taking care of that particular situation on your and my timetable. I have done some research, and scientists say that almost 90% of the diseases and illnesses that affect us today are a direct result of our thought life. And most of us would agree today that we have an epidemic of toxic emotions. Our brains will speak to our bodies, and our bodies speak to our brains. There's a mind-body link that's ever present, and it's an ongoing, it's a symphony of chemicals that play throughout our bodies, and this happens 24 hours a day, whether we're cognizant of it or not. And the way in which we think affects the functioning of that whole chemical cycle, and we're going to look at that this week. God has built this incredible mechanism inside of our brains that gives us actually a free will to accept or reject information. We do have the opportunity to reject negative information from our thoughts before it gets the support of damaging attitudes and emotions. And there are two groups of emotions. They are polar opposites. There's positive faith-based emotions, and then there's your negative fear-based emotions. Now, what are some of the faith-based? I think these are obvious: love and joy and peace and kindness, gentleness and self-control. Maybe those sound familiar to you. They are the fruit of the Spirit. These produce good attitudes and thoughts. And then we have our fear-based emotions, and that's anxiety and hostility and resentment and anger and irritation. These actually produce toxic attitudes, and they create their own chemical reaction in the body that alters behavior. Fear is the root of all stress. Scripture tells us that God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. It all ties back to our minds and our thoughts. If our fear-based thoughts and chaotic thinking is not controlled at some point, then those stress hormones and chemicals, they continue to react. They move to a cellular level where our body can experience being affected in the tissues and ultimately our organs. At this time, when we internalize wounded emotions, they build up and they eventually will manifest as either anger, hostility, resentment, and so on. I want you to understand today, as I lay this foundation, that suppressed emotional pain can also cause lingering physical pain. This week, we're going to take a look at our thought life. We're going to give much attention to our thought life. We're going to learn about how strongholds are actually created, how we tear them down, and what it actually means and what it looks like to take thoughts captive. I think you're going to be astounded. Thank you for being here with me today. I bless you today. I pray peace would be over your mind and your heart like a garrison. And I bless you and I love you. I'll see you soon.